In 2014, 27-year-old archaeologist Dr. Laura Mitchell led her first independent excavation deep in Egypt's Western Plateau, a place so remote that even GPS signals flickered like ghosts across the dunes. She was young but already known for her sharp mind and stubborn curiosity, a Cambridge scholar who believed she'd found proof of a civilization older than any recorded in Egyptian history. Her research pointed to a mysterious ruin, described in fragmented texts as the Hall of Whispering Stones, a subterranean structure believed to house relics long before the pyramids existed. For Laura, this wasn't just another dig. It was the chance to make history and prove the theories that had once made her an outsider in academia. Her team consisted of 5 researchers, 3 local workers, and a translator named Yusuf, a man who had grown up hearing stories about the Cursed Valley where the wind was said to carry voices of the dead. The villagers warned them to stay away, but Laura dismissed the tales as folklore meant to scare off outsiders. She was too focused, too rational to believe in superstition. The camp was set up near a line of ancient rock formations, where the sand formed rippling waves under a relentless sun. Each morning began before dawn, with the team brushing sand off fragments of pottery, cataloging every discovery, and marking coordinates on weathered maps. The first weeks were uneventful, until Laura uncovered a strange tablet with markings no one could translate, not hieroglyphics, not any known ancient script. That night she wrote in her journal that she felt watched, though she laughed it off later. Small things began to unsettle the team: footprints where no one had walked, equipment moved overnight, and the sound of something scraping against the tents in the wind. Then, in the second month, Laura's demeanor changed. Her colleagues noticed she was quieter, more withdrawn, often staying up late, staring at a laptop filled with field photos and scribbled symbols. She claimed she had found a pattern, an entrance outline hidden beneath a ridge. She planned to verify it herself at first light. The following morning, a violent sandstorm swept across the camp, cutting visibility to near zero. When it passed, Laura's tent stood open, her sleeping bag empty. Her sat phone was found half buried outside, its screen cracked. The tracks leading away from the camp ended abruptly where the dunes met a shallow ravine. Search teams combed the area for days, aided by local police and even a rescue helicopter, but not a single trace was found. No body, no belongings, no signs of struggle. The official report listed her as missing due to probable exposure. But everyone in the team knew that didn't make sense. Laura was trained, experienced, and cautious. She would never have walked into the desert unprepared. The university sent a replacement team to close down the site, but they lasted only 2 nights before abandoning it, claiming the place felt wrong, the silence too heavy, the air thick with something unspoken. Within a month, the entire expedition was erased from official records, funding pulled, and her disappearance reduced to a footnote. Her family tried to keep the case alive, but as the years passed, the desert reclaimed the story, and the name Laura Mitchell became another mystery buried beneath the sand. 3 years passed, and Laura's disappearance had faded into the background noise of forgotten investigations, until a construction project unexpectedly brought her name back to life. In 2017, a privately funded excavation began roughly 20 miles south of where Laura's last expedition had been abandoned. The project wasn't academic, it was commercial, a foreign investment group planning to build an eco-resort for wealthy travelers, seeking ancient authenticity. The work was routine at first, just land clearing and soil testing, until a group of local laborers unearthed something their drills couldn't pierce. They hit a massive stone slab buried at an angle under nearly 12 feet of compact sand. It wasn't natural rock. It had clean carved edges and faint markings along one side. The foreman halted the dig and called in an antiquities inspector from Cairo. Within a day, the site filled with police, archaeologists, and curious journalists who sensed something unusual. When the sand was cleared, what emerged was a sealed chamber entrance built from sandstone, its surface etched with strange symbols that glowed faintly under sunlight, as if reacting to the heat. Nobody could explain the markings, and the translation team couldn't identify the language. It looked old, impossibly old, yet the air trapped behind the cracks smelled fresh, almost sterile. When the slab was finally lifted, a wave of cool air escaped from the darkness below. Inside was a small stone chamber barely large enough to stand in, lined with dust and fragments of broken pottery. But at its center lay something no one expected: a human body, partially mummified, its clothes preserved by the dry air. The khaki field shirt, faded cargo pants, and boots were all modern. In the right pocket, wrapped in a layer of fabric, was a university ID card. The name on it stopped everyone cold: Dr. Laura Mitchell. Investigators confirmed the ID was real, laminated, intact, and matched the one she'd been issued before her disappearance. But the condition of the remains didn't fit any known pattern. The body showed no signs of animal disturbance, and the decomposition didn't match 3 years in open desert heat. Forensic experts said it was as if the chamber had been perfectly sealed since the day she vanished. Even stranger, the inner walls bore fresh carvings, jagged English letters scratched unevenly into the stone with a metal object. The words read, "They found us. Don't open it." The discovery of Laura's remains shook the archaeological community, but for investigators it was only the beginning of something far larger. Once the chamber was sealed off for forensic analysis, the Egyptian Antiquities Authority handed the case to a joint task force, and soon evidence began surfacing that pointed to deliberate concealment rather than accident. Laura's personal journals, retrieved from her university office in Cambridge, revealed she had been under immense pressure before her disappearance. Her final notes described a conflict with Dr. Marcus Hanley, the same mentor now linked to the resort's investors. She wrote that Hanley had been diverting artifacts to private collectors and falsifying carbon dating reports to inflate the historical value of the site. She had planned to confront him with proof and had even emailed a contact in Cairo saying, "If something happens, tell my parents it wasn't the desert." That email was never sent, recovered only from her unsent drafts folder. Investigators soon found that the expedition's official GPS records had been altered. The last coordinates registered from Laura's satellite phone placed her not at the main camp, but 4 kilometers west, near an unlisted sub-site. That location was later found to contain traces of disturbed sand and fragments of the same limestone that made up the chamber where she was found. Authorities questioned Hanley, who dismissed all allegations, claiming Laura had been emotionally unstable and obsessed with myths. But inconsistencies began piling up. Bank records showed he received several large, undocumented payments during the months following her disappearance, wired through offshore accounts. More telling was the discovery of a private shipment of artifacts sent to a Swiss museum under Hanley's name, originating from an area near Laura's dig. When investigators requested access to the museum archives, they found 2 of the items still labeled with field tags bearing Laura's handwriting. That connection was enough to bring Interpol into the case. Around the same time, one of Laura's former team members, a technician named Yusuf, came forward after years of silence. He claimed that, days before the sandstorm, Laura and Hanley had a violent argument about her research notes. Hanley accused her of trespassing into restricted zones of the site. She accused him of smuggling. That night, he said he saw Hanley loading sealed crates into a truck after midnight. When Yusuf confronted him the next morning, Hanley told him the dig was over and ordered everyone to leave within 24 hours. Forensic analysis added another layer of suspicion. The carvings inside the chamber, "They found us, don't open it," were compared to tool marks from Hanley's previous expeditions, and the match was undeniable. They had been made with the same steel chisel model registered to Hanley's personal kit. DNA traces recovered from the fabric around Lara's ID card revealed a second profile, male, unidentified, but later confirmed to belong to Hanley through familial DNA databases. He had been there after she died. Investigators theorized that Lara had uncovered proof of his trafficking operation and that he silenced her to protect it. What they couldn't explain was how her body ended up sealed so perfectly, or why the carvings appeared to have been made long after her death. When pressed for answers, Hanley grew nervous, repeatedly stating that there were others involved and that some things should stay buried. It became clear this wasn't just an academic crime, it was part of a network reaching beyond universities and museums, one that thrived in the shadows of archaeology's most prestigious discoveries. But for investigators, the truth was now moving faster than the sand could hide it. By late 2017, the investigation had turned international. Financial analysts traced millions in illicit payments funneled through a fake conservation fund tied to Hanley and a shell corporation registered in Dubai under the name Aegis Antiquities. On paper, it looked like a cultural preservation group, but in reality, it operated as a front for black market artifact sales. Their reach extended from Cairo to Zurich, with private collectors, corrupt customs officials, and even museum curators among their clients. Lara had stumbled upon this during her 2014 dig, evidence hidden in shipment crates marked as educational materials. When she confronted Hanley, she unknowingly sealed her fate. Investigators discovered that the night before her disappearance, Hanley filed a false maintenance report authorizing emergency structural stabilization near the dig site. The same night, 2 guards hired through Aegis flew into the region using falsified documentation. Their names later appeared in Interpol records linked to smuggling operations across North Africa. One of those men, Omar Tahiri, was found dead 2 years later in Morocco, his body burned in a car registered to Aegis. The other vanished. The connection was undeniable. Lara hadn't died by accident. She'd been silenced to protect a global operation. Authorities decided to confront Hanley head-on. A covert task force raided a private hangar outside Cairo, where a small aircraft registered to Hanley's institute had been landing regularly, despite his claim of not visiting Egypt for years. Inside, they found aerial photographs of the Al-Hamra Desert showing excavation grids identical to Lara's site, taken only months before her remains were found. There were also sealed containers of artifacts awaiting shipment and a digital storage drive labeled Project Orion. When decrypted, the drive revealed video logs of excavation operations carried out under Aegis's banner, off-record digs where workers uncovered burial chambers, removed artifacts, and resealed the sites to avoid detection. The final file, dated June 2014, showed video footage of Lara alive, standing in front of what appeared to be the same chamber where her body was found. She spoke into the camera, visibly tense, saying she had discovered something built much deeper than expected, and that they were trying to stop her from entering. Moments later, a male voice in the background ordered the recording to stop. The clip ended abruptly. This evidence forced international authorities to move. Hanley was placed under surveillance in London, while local teams searched for the rumored deeper chamber Lara had mentioned. Using ground-penetrating radar, experts found a second void beneath the one where she was discovered, a hidden tunnel extending farther underground. The lower chamber contained fragments of ancient tools, sealed jars, and skeletal remains dating back thousands of years, but among them were recent footprints and fragments of modern rope fibers. Someone had been down there after Lara vanished. Before investigators could explore further, the tunnel partially collapsed, likely from old excavation damage. That collapse killed 2 workers and halted the dig indefinitely. The press was told it was due to instability, but those on site knew it was something else: deliberate sabotage. Shortly after, an anonymous email was sent to Egyptian officials warning them to leave the rest buried. Its origin traced back to an encrypted server used by Aegis. The timing was too precise to be a coincidence. Hanley's operation was unraveling, and those still protecting him were willing to bury every secret and every person to keep the past from resurfacing. Months passed, and the disappearance of Maya Patel became one of the most discussed unsolved cases in modern archaeology. News outlets ran theories ranging from criminal cover-ups to ancient curses, but none came close to what truly happened. Dr. Elias, despite being officially dismissed from the project, couldn't let go. The memory of that chamber, the eerie carvings, the bloodstains, Maya's voice through the static, haunted him day and night. He started working in secret, collecting data, satellite scans, and testimonies from local Bedouins who claimed to have seen flickering lights at the excavation site long after the dig was abandoned. Some even spoke of a figure wandering the dunes at night, a woman in khaki clothing carrying a small lantern, her face pale and lost. Elias returned to Egypt quietly, using his remaining funds to reach the restricted zone. The guards were gone, replaced by armed men who didn't wear government uniforms. When he approached the area, he noticed new tire marks and heavy machinery. Someone had resumed the dig, but not for research. It was excavation under the cover of secrecy, and from the sound of drills echoing through the desert, whatever they were searching for was buried deep. Late one night, Elias sneaked into the site, moving quietly among the rows of metallic crates filled with artifacts. He saw symbols identical to those on the chamber door etched on the side of the containers. But what chilled him most was a photograph clipped to a report on the tables, a grainy image of Maya taken only a few weeks earlier. She looked older, thinner, her expression distant, her eyes glowing faintly from the camera flash. The report was stamped "Biological Anomaly, Active." His breath caught. Before he could process what it meant, a voice came from behind him. "You shouldn't have come back, Elias." It was Dr. Morgan, the government-appointed archaeologist who had replaced him. Morgan looked exhausted, his tone flat. They found something beneath the chamber, a second vault. It wasn't meant to be uncovered. She went in, and she changed. Elias followed him deeper into the tunnels, past guards who seemed too afraid to look inside. The deeper they went, the more the air thickened with heat and decay. At the end of the passage, they reached a metallic door reinforced with steel beams. Morgan keyed in a code, and the door hissed open. Inside, faint golden light flickered over the sand-covered floor. There she was, Maya, sitting near the far wall, half covered in dust, but very much alive. Her eyes met Elias's, and for a moment he thought she smiled, but then he saw her hands. Her fingertips had turned the color of old stone, veins laced with something that shimmered like gold dust. She whispered, "It's not a tomb, it's a prison." Her voice trembled as she explained that the chamber had been built to contain something ancient, a substance or presence that could merge with human consciousness. When she disturbed the seal, it entered her, showing her memories of civilizations erased from time, forcing her to become the link between the living and what was buried. Elias tried to reach for her, but Morgan pulled him back. "She's not the same," he said, his voice breaking. "Every time she speaks, the walls react." And indeed, the carvings around them began to glow softly, vibrating with energy. The ground shuddered, sand falling from the ceiling. Maya looked terrified. She whispered, "They'll bury it again, and they'll bury me with it." Before Elias could respond, a blinding flash filled the vault, followed by silence. When he opened his eyes, he was outside, lying on the desert floor, the entire site gone. No tents, no lights, no machinery, only sand, smooth and untouched, as though nothing had ever existed there. Authorities later found Elias wandering miles away, dehydrated and incoherent. He kept repeating a single phrase, "She's beneath us." Months later, when he recovered enough to speak, he tried to report what he saw, but every document, every satellite record, every image of the excavation had vanished from archives. The coordinates of the site no longer matched any known location. It was as if the desert had swallowed it whole. A year later, a sandstorm unearthed part of a strange metallic plate near the same region. Etched across it were the same glowing symbols, and beneath them, faintly scratched in English, Maya Patel, 2014. After that, the government sealed the area completely. Locals say that on quiet desert nights, you can hear a woman's voice echoing faintly through the dunes, whispering in a mix of ancient tongues, warning anyone who listens not to dig too deep. And somewhere beneath that endless sea of sand, the lost chamber waits once more, holding its secrets, and the young archaeologist who became one of them.